A long time ago, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the sun, the moon and the earth. After creating these, He saw that His creation was incomplete. So He asked His angels to collect clay from the earth. The obedient angels collected clay and Allah made a man-like figure with it. And the God named him Adam alayhi salam. But the figure didn't move for 40 long years. It just stood still there. When Iblis saw this figure, he was confused and scared. And after 40 long years, one day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed His spirit into Adam alayhi salam. When the spirit reached the head of the figure, it sneezed. When the spirit reached his eyes, he saw all the amazing food lying around. Then the spirit reached his stomach, and Adam alayhi salam felt hungry. The Prophet had seen the fruits lying around, so before the spirit could even reach his legs, he jumped towards the fruits. Adam alayhi salam fell down as he couldn't move his legs. Then Allah asked all the angels, including Iblis, to prostrate before Adam alayhi salam as a sign of respect. One by one, all the angels prostrated before the Prophet, except Iblis. Iblis said that he was better than the Prophet and he was made from fire. Allah got angry with this disobedience, so He banished Iblis from paradise. From that day, Iblis was called as the Shaitan, and he was thrown into the hell. Shaitan was now very angry with the humans as he was banished from the paradise because of them. He vowed to take revenge by misleading the humans. Allah then taught Adam the names of every animal in paradise. The lion, the sheep, camel, elephant, dove, peacock and many more. Allah told the Prophet that he was allowed to eat every fruit in the garden except one. God told the Prophet that he should not eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge and that it was forbidden. And he spent most of his time playing with the animals in paradise. After a few years, the Prophet became lonely as there were no other humans in paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw this, so He decided to give Adam a wife. That night when the Prophet was sleeping, God created the first woman. When the Prophet woke up, he was happy to see the woman. He then named her Hawa because she was made from something living. Both of them lived happily in paradise for a long time. Shaitan was still angry at the humans. Many years had passed by, so Shaitan knew that the Prophet must have forgotten the words of Allah. One day, he made a plan that would banish the Prophet and his wife from paradise. Shaitan came to the paradise and tricked the Prophet and his wife into eating the forbidden fruit. The Prophet and his wife unknowingly plucked the fruit and started eating it. But even before they could finish eating the fruit, they knew they had committed a grave sin. They were now filled with pain, sadness and shame. After eating the fruit of forbidden knowledge, they realized they were naked, so they ran to cover themselves up in leaves. They were now really scared, as they knew Allah would punish them for their disobedience. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to know about this, He got angry. And the Prophet and his wife were thrown out of the paradise. The Prophet and his wife walked for a very long time and they finally settled down near a river. The Prophet knew that the life on earth was going to be very difficult. He had to make a house for them to live. He had to work hard to feed his family. They now no longer had the pleasures they enjoyed in paradise. After a few years, Hawa gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. They named the boy Qabil. And later, Hawa gave birth to another twins, again a boy and a girl. This time they named the boy Habil. Both Habil and Qabil grew up. Qabil took to farming, working in the fields and growing crops. When Habil grew up, he became a shepherd and took care of the sheep. When Habil and Qabil grew up to become adults, the Prophet decided to get them married. Since there were no other females on earth, Prophet decided to get Qabil married to Habil's twin and Habil to Qabil's twin. Qabil's twin sister was beautiful, while Habil's sister was not that beautiful. Qabil was not happy with the arrangement and he wanted to marry his own sister. There was an argument and the Prophet decided to settle the issue by offering a sacrifice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was decided that the one whose sacrifice is accepted will marry Qabil's sister. Habil collected the best lamb from his flock and offered it as a sacrifice to Allah. But Qabil didn't want to offer the best fruits and vegetables as sacrifice. Instead, he chose the bad vegetables and grains for sacrifice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted the sacrifice of Habil, but rejected the one made by Qabil. The Prophet was present when they made their sacrifices, and it was decided that Habil would marry Qabil's sister. But Qabil was not at all happy. He was so angry that he wanted to kill Habil. One day Habil was late coming home and the Prophet sent Qabil to search for him. Qabil went searching for Habil and he went to the fields looking for Habil. At last he found Habil walking towards home. Qabil was still angry with Habil. "Your offering was accepted, but mine was not." To which Habil replied, "Allah only accepts from those who fear him." Qabil was angry to hear this and he picked up a stone to hit Habil. Habil saw this and even though he was bigger and stronger than Qabil, he said, "Even if you stretch your hand to kill me, I will never stretch my hand to harm you because I fear Allah." This comment further angered Qabil and he struck him with the stone, instantly killing him. When Qabil realized that Habil was dead, he was terrified and didn't know what to do. He didn't want his father to know what he has done. So he started thinking about ways to hide his sin. Qabil wandered from place to place with the dead body of Habil, trying to hide it. That was when he saw two crows fighting with each other. During the fight, one crow killed the other, and the dead one fell down. The victorious crow then scratched and dug a hole in the ground. He buried the dead crow in the hole he had dug. Then he filled the hole with mud. This gave Qabil an idea. And like the crows, he dug a hole on the ground and buried his brother's body in it. This was the first burial of a man. Qabil was ashamed of what he had done. Shaitan had won over him, and he knew that he could no longer go back to his family. The Prophet knew what had happened, and he mourned the loss of his son. He had lost both his sons. One was dead, and the other was misled by Shaitan. He warned his other children about Shaitan and asked them to always obey the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After a long time, the Prophet had many more children. The Prophet had grown old and his children loved him very much. When Adam alayhi salam realized that his death was near, he appointed Seth as the successor to his family. Time of his death, the angels came to his house and stood beside him. When the Prophet realized that the angel of death has arrived, he smiled peacefully and passed away.
MashaAllah, that was such a wonderful story.
Alhamdulillah, I am glad you liked the story. Now, I shall ask you a few questions to see if you remember the story.
Of course. Yes, go on, ask me.
Now tell me the name of the first human God had created.
It was Adam alayhi salam.
That's great, dear. And tell me the name of his wife.
It was Hawa.
You've got that right. All right, now for the next question. Tell me why the Prophet was banned from the paradise.
They were banned because they ate the fruit of forbidden knowledge. That's why God threw them out of the paradise. Isn't that right, Baba?
That's correct, my dear. Now for the next question. Tell me the names of the Prophet's first sons.
It was Qabil and Habil.
MashaAllah, you are giving all the right answers, my son. Let me see if you can answer this one. What was the profession of Qabil?
He was a farmer.
That's correct. And now for the last question. Whom did the Prophet appoint as the successor to his family?
Oh, can you give me some clues, Baba?
All right, here are the clues. Was it Qabil, Habil or Seth?
Seth. It was Seth, Baba. Isn't that right?
Yes, dear. Alhamdulillah, you are such a bright boy. Now that's all for today. Insha'Allah, I will tell you another story tomorrow. Ma'as-salama.
Good night, Baba.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Baba. I was waiting for you.
What were you doing, my son?
I was just doing my homework, Baba.
And have finished it yet?
Almost, Baba. Just one more line to write.
All right, finish your homework and inshallah I will tell you the story of another prophet tonight.
Story of another prophet? Thank you so much, Baba. Just give me a minute and I'll finish writing this quickly. I finished my homework, Baba. Can you please tell me the story now?
MashaAllah, that was quick. So excited, huh? All right, tonight I am going to tell you the story of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam.
Who was he, Baba?
I'll tell you, my son. Now listen carefully. Bismillah. The story of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Prophet Nuh alayhi salam to earth 1,000 years after sending Prophet Adam alayhi salam. The population on earth had increased many folds by now. And by this time, the evil shaitan had played his dirty tricks with mankind, and people had started worshipping idols. It was during this time that Allah sent another prophet to earth, Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, to guide the people back. But it wasn't going to be an easy job for the prophet. Fear Allah and do what Allah says, shouted the prophet to everyone. But the people didn't want to listen. They shook their heads and continued worshipping the idols. The prophet was an excellent speaker, and he was very patient too. Don't you understand that it was Allah who created this whole world? Shouted the prophet. It was Allah who created the sun, the moon, and the stars you see in the sky. He created the rivers, the mountains, the trees, and everything you see around. He did all this for you, and you alone. Then why are you not showing him any respect? Why are you worshipping these idols?" But the people turned their backs on him, saying, "Ha! Who are you to advise us? You're just another man, and we think that you are lying. Go away and leave us alone." But there were good Muslims on earth too. Most of them were weak and poor. They listened to the words of the Prophet and realized that they were committing a sin by worshipping the idols. Now, there were two different groups of people on earth. One who worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the others who continued idol worship. Nuh alayhi salam continued preaching to the people for many years. The idol worshippers soon became tired of the Prophet. "You've been preaching lies for long enough," they said. "We are going to stone you if you do not stop." But the Prophet ignored them and continued calling the people tirelessly. He preached to them during the day and the night. On many occasions, he was stoned by the idol worshippers while preaching to the crowd. He was even beaten with the sticks. "You are no different from us," shouted the idol worshippers. "You are no prophet. You are just another man. And why should we listen to you? I am telling you the truth." The Prophet pleaded to them. "You are committing a sin by worshipping the idols." But the people didn't listen and they beat him again. "I fear for you. Allah is going to punish you one day," the Prophet shouted to them. But the people had no shame and they said, "He is a fool. Don't listen to him." All this pain did not let the Prophet to stop calling out to the people. He continued preaching to them for 950 years. The disbelievers kept making fun of the Prophet, and by now, they had taken things too far. Nuh alayhi salam was disappointed by now, whereas the number of disbelievers kept growing and growing. One night, when the Prophet was offering his prayers, Allah spoke to him. "Don't be sad, Nuh," God said to the Prophet. "You have done what you were asked to. I am going to punish all the people on earth for their wrongdoings. Everyone on earth is going to die, except the Muslims and the animals," said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the first step, God then asked the Prophet to plant many trees. Nuh alayhi salam didn't understand the reason behind this, but he listened to Allah and started planting trees as he was told. He also asked the good Muslims who listened to him to do the same. They did this for more than 100 years. After many years, Allah spoke to the Prophet again. This time, he asked the Prophet to start building a ship. "It has to be a huge ship that can accommodate a pair of every animal on this earth," said Allah. The Prophet was confused. He didn't know how to build the ship, and no one had ever made a ship before. In spite of this, the Prophet started making the ship with the help of the Malaks. First, they made plans for building the ship. No one knows the exact size of the ship. Some say it had a length of 600 feet, and others say it had a length of 2,400 feet. Whatever it was, the ship was sure going to be a gigantic one. "We will help you to build the ship," said his children and the Muslims, and they joined the Prophet. First, the Prophet had to choose a place for building the ship. He chose the mountains far, far away from the city. The Prophet collected the tools and set out to build the ship. They started cutting down the trees for wood. Yes, it was the same trees he had planted more than 100 years back. Then they started building the ship as per the plan. The men worked very hard, day and night, to build the ship. When the disbelievers saw the Prophet building a ship on the top of a mountain, they started making fun of him. You are such an old fool, they said. Why would you possibly need a ship so huge? The others said, and how are you going to take it to the sea? You would come to know very soon, replied the Prophet. The people didn't know why the Prophet was building the ship, and they thought the Prophet had lost his mind. The Prophet and his men kept working hard. After many months, the ship was finally ready. They then thanked Allah for helping them to finish the ship. The time for the flood was nearing day by day. One night, Allah told the Prophet that he will start flooding the earth the day when the Prophet sees water coming out of the stove in his house. You see, this huge ship built by the Prophet had 3 different sections.
What were the different sections for, Baba?
They were for 3 different types of animals, Amir. The first one was for birds. The second part of the structure was for humans. And the third part was for the animals.
MashaAllah. That was brilliant.
Yes, my son. And while the day of the flood got nearer, animals and the birds started arriving one by one. They were arriving in pairs, one male and a female. There were elephants, giraffes, lions, rabbits, parrots. And soon the ship was filled with all the variety of animals and birds from the earth. And one day, like God had told the Prophet, water suddenly started coming out of his stove in his kitchen. This was the sign Nuh alayhi salam was waiting for. He knew that the time of the flood had arrived. When he went out, he saw that it had started raining too. Without wasting any time, he ran out and called all the good Muslims who had helped him to build the ship. He asked all of them to board the ship immediately. The disbelievers didn't understand what was going on. So they kept laughing at the Prophet. Look at the old fool, they said. What is he going to do with all those animals and men? The Prophet ignored them and asked his wives and sons to board the ship quickly. Everyone obeyed him, except for one of his wife and her son, who were not his followers. I will save myself from the water, his son said. Don't worry about me. The water levels had gone up by now, so the Prophet ran to board the ship. A terrible flood broke out, and the water levels began to rise rapidly. The earth's crust moved, and ocean floors started rising, which caused it to flood the dry lands. The rains didn't stop for hours either. By now, people realized that what the Prophet told them was true, and they ran towards the mountains to save themselves. The Prophet saw that his wife and son were climbing a mountain to escape from the water. So he shouted to them, "Come and board the ship! Save yourself!" But they ignored him and climbed to the top of the mountain. Then a huge wave, bigger than the mountain they stood on, came and hit them, killing both of them. These enormous waves killed all other disbelievers as well. The water kept rising and rising, and after some time, the earth was completely filled with water. Then Nuh alayhi salam said, Bismillah. When the Prophet uttered these words, the ship started moving. The rains had stopped by now, but the entire earth was filled with water. The Prophet knew that he had to keep sailing for a long, long time.
But didn't the animals hurt each other? Then how did they live together?
The ship had 80 people in it, and the Prophet had taken precautions to store enough food for the men and the animals. Allah had it all planned, my son. He made the ship suitable for the silent sheep as well as the violent lion. all the violent animals were down with some or the other sickness. All of them were living together. But the Prophet faced a lot of trouble because of the rats. They were everywhere, running up and down, nibbling there, nibbling here. They were really the troublemakers. And then Prophet prayed to the God, and it was then Allah created the cats. The cats hunted down the rats, and after some time, the rats started behaving as well. Like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala solved many problems that the Prophet had to face during the journey. They had sailed for about 150 days by now. And they couldn't find land anywhere they could see. The Prophet and the men waited and waited for many days. The Prophet then decided to send a crow to see if it could find land anywhere, but the crow didn't return at all. Then the Prophet sent a dove in search of land. The dove flew away, and after a few days, returned with a branch of olive tree in its beaks. The Prophet and his family were really happy, as they knew that they were close to the land. The ship sailed further for some time and finally reached on the top of the Judi mountain. The Prophet said, Bismillah, and the ship stopped moving. After traveling for more than 150 days, their journey had finally come to an end. The Prophet released all the animals, birds and insects first into the land. They went out and populated the earth back again. The Prophet and other Muslims came out of the ship, and the first thing he did was to put his forehead to the ground in prostration. And that was a new beginning for the human race.
That was such a great story, Baba.
MashaAllah, I am glad you liked it, my son. Now shall I ask you a few questions from the story?
Yes, Baba.
Alright, now tell me, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send Prophet Nuh alayhi salam to the earth?
He sent the Prophet to call people back to Allah.
That's correct, my son. Now for the next question. Why did the people not listen to the words of the Prophet?
The people on earth thought that the Prophet were lying to them. They thought the Prophet was just another man.
Very good, Amr. Can you tell me who boarded the ship along with the Prophet's family?
I know the answer. The Muslims boarded the ship too. The animals, birds, and the insects boarded the ship as well.
That's correct again. And now for the final question. Tell me the name of the mountain where the ship finally landed.
Was it Judi Mountain, Baba?
You are right, my son. MashaAllah, you gave me all the right answers.
Thanks, Baba.
Alright, that's all for today. I'll tell you another story tomorrow, my son. Ma'a salama.
Why is Baba so late to come home today?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Why are you late today?
Oh, I just had to finish few works, my son. So, are you ready for the story of another prophet?
Yes, Baba.
Insha'Allah, I will tell you the story of Prophet Hud alayhi salam tonight. Now listen carefully. Bismillah. After the great flood, the descendants of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam populated the earth. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam had many grandsons, and they had even more grandsons. Like that, the population of earth grew quickly. Many of them settled down in ancient Yemen. It is said that those who settled down here were the descendants of Iram, one of the grandsons of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. They were called the Aad people. The Aad people were big and strong, and they were very hardworking too. They were known for their craftsmanship, especially in the construction of tall, beautiful buildings. The people of Aad grew rich, and they erected huge towers on top of every mountain nearby to showcase their skills. They were very proud of what they had become. At first, all of them were good Muslims and prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But as time went by, they were misled by shaitan. The Aad people made idols from the stone and started worshipping these idols. They ignored Allah's warnings and worshipped these idols instead and fell into bad ways. That was when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to send another prophet to earth. This time Allah chose the Prophet Hud alayhi salam from among themselves to warn them as a trusty advisor. Allah has sent me to you, he said to his people. He was the one who taught you everything. He gave you this world. He gave you your children. He gave you animals. You should stop worshipping false gods. There is only one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should obey His commands, he told them. But the people of Aad shouted back at the Prophet, who are you to advise us? Why should we listen to you? And they ignored the Prophet. I was chosen to convey God's message, he told them calmly. Listen to what I say. If you do not, then I fear that God will punish you. The people didn't listen, and they said, you are nothing but a liar. Why should we listen to the words of a liar? I am not a liar, the Prophet told them. And the Aad people said, if you are not a liar, then prove what you are saying is true. Tell Allah to send the punishment. Hud alayhi salam was sad and disappointed when he heard this. I am not a liar. I am the Prophet of Allah, he told them earnestly. But no one believed in him and walked away. The Prophet tried preaching to different tribes as well. Do you think the houses you have built is going to last forever? He asked them. Remember that it is Allah who gave you your fortunes. He is my Lord and your Lord, and only in Him should you trust. I have already warned you before. If you don't obey Allah, He will choose some other people to take your place. Allah knows and hears everything. But the elders of the tribe too rejected him, calling him a fool and a liar. The Prophet tried again to convince them. Oh my people, I am not a fool, he told them. I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. I am letting you know His will and give you my honest advice. They didn't listen to the Prophet, and they too turned their backs on him, and they continued worshipping the idols. There were only a very few people in Aad who listened to the words of the Prophet. Hud alayhi salam realized that Allah was going to punish the people of Aad soon. Allah punishes the disbelievers no matter how rich, tyrannical or great they are. In the next few days, a drought spread throughout the land. The sky no longer sent its rain, and the sun scorched the desert sands. Aad people came to the Prophet asking, why is this drought, Hud? And the Prophet answered, Allah is angry with you. If you believe in Him, He will accept you and He will send the rains. You are such a fool! They laughed at the Prophet, more obstinate and sarcastic. The drought increased, the trees turned yellow, and the plants died. But the people continued to worship the idols. Many months went by, and Aad did not receive even a single raindrop. The Aad people refused to accept Allah as their God and prayed to the idols for sending the rains. But the drought went on for 3 long years. One day when the Prophet was offering his prayers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the Prophet to gather his true companions and told him to leave Ad. Shortly afterwards, a huge black cloud appeared in the sky over the people of Ad. The disbelievers didn't realize that it was Allah who had sent that cloud as a warning to them. They thought that this large cloud was going to give them the rains instead and worshipped the idols again. The weather changed suddenly from burning dry and hot to stinging cold with the wind that shook everything. Trees, plants, tents, even men and women. The wind increased day after night and night after night. The Ad people realized that this was the punishment sent by Allah and began fleeing. They ran to their house to hide, but the wind got stronger and ripped their houses apart. The people then hid in the basements of the huge buildings they had made. But the wind was so strong that the buildings collapsed and the disbelievers died in these basements. The storm raged for 8 days and 7 nights. The violent wind did not stop until the entire region was reduced to ruins. And all the wicked people in Ad were now destroyed. Only the Prophet Hud alayhi salam and his people were safe because they heeded the warnings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They migrated to Hadramaut and lived there in peace, worshipping Allah, their true God.
Mashallah, that was such a wonderful story.
I am glad you liked it, dear.
Aren't you gonna ask me the questions today?
I was about to ask you that. Now, are you ready?
Yes, Baba.
Alright, now tell me, where did the Prophet Hud alayhi salam live?
He lived in the land of Ad.
That's the right answer. Now for the next question, tell me, what sins did the people of Ad commit? I will give you 3 options. Gambling, worshipping idols, stealing.
It was option B, worshipping idols.
That's right again. You are doing very good.
Thanks, Baba.
Next question. For what skills were the people of Ad renowned for?
Can you give me some options?
Of course, here they are. Option A, craftsmanship. Option B, singers. Option C, dancers.
They were renowned for their craftsmanship.
That's right again. Alright, now here's the next question. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punish the people of Ad?
Allah sent a drought to the land of Ad. The people still mocked at Prophet Hud. Then God sent a strong wind that destroyed everything in Ad.
MashaAllah, that was excellent, my son. Did Prophet Hud die in the storm?
No, the Prophet and his followers remained unharmed.
That's the right answer, my son. It's time for me to leave. I will tell you another story tomorrow.
Which story are you going to tell me tomorrow?
Inshallah, I think I will tell you the story of Prophet Salih alayhi salam tomorrow.
Prophet Saleh alayhi salam?
Yes, Amir. After the destruction of Ad, the tribe of Thamur succeeded them. It was among them that this prophet lived.
Wow, that sounds so interesting. I'm so excited.
All right, now go to sleep. Good night.
Good night.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Baba.
What were you doing, Amr?
I was just reading this book on prophets.
Can I see that?
Of course, here.
Stories of prophets, MashaAllah.
Baba, Can you tell me the story of Prophet Saleh today?
I can see that you are getting very interested in the Prophet stories.
I'm learning a lot from your stories. Thank you so much, Baba.
Alright, I will tell you the story of Prophet Saleh alayhi salam today. Now listen carefully. Bismillah. The story of Prophet Saleh alayhi salam. Allah had destructed the city of Ad because of their wrongdoing. The tribe of Thamud succeeded them in power and glory. The people of Thamud, like the people of Ad, were hardworking and excellent craftsmen. Like their forefathers, they too made buildings on the top of mountains, and they lived in beautiful houses. Their lands were fertile, and it gave them abundant crops as well. But as their material wealth increased, so did their evil ways. The tribe was ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and its members did not worship Him. The rich and the luxurious became tyrants. The members of the tribe worshipped the idols instead. Prophet Saleh alayhi salam lived during that period of time. He was a good and wise person. The people loved him and respected him for his amazing qualities. Like their forefathers, idol worshipping was rooted deep in the hearts of men and women. The Prophet realized this and he tried to correct them. He knew that even the tribe chiefs were corrupt and bad men. They practiced idol worshipping and encouraged everyone to do so. They even punished those who worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, Saleh alayhi salam was chosen as Allah's messenger. He was not afraid of anyone except Allah, the Great and Almighty. He prayed to Allah without fearing anyone. O people, worship Allah. You have no other God but Him, the Prophet said to them. But the people of the tribe said to him, O Saleh, we always liked you and we thought one day you would become our chief. Now why are you asking us to worship Allah? How can you ask us to leave our gods and worship yours? How can we forget our gods who were worshipped even by our fathers? We do not believe in your God. Go away. They replied back. It was from here that the struggle between the good and the evil began. The Prophet believed in Allah and struggled against the disbelievers. One day, as usual, the members of the tribe gathered around a huge rock on the top of the mountain. They worshipped the rock for a long time, and when the children saw their fathers, they started worshipping the rock as well. The people butchered rams as a sacrifice to the rock and sought its blessings. When the Prophet saw this, he was sad and said to them, O my people, please serve Allah, the one and only true God. Then one of them said, Why do you ask us to pray to Allah alone? Because He has created you, said the Prophet. He gave you everything, the sun, the moon, the mountains, the seas, everything that you see around. Then one of the chiefs came forward and said, Show us a miracle. He said, Show us a miracle and we'll believe you. Then another chief came forward and said, pointing at the rock, Ask your Lord to make a living she-camel out of that rock. Then another chief came forward and said, Yes, the camel should be pregnant too. He laughed. The Prophet thought for a while and replied, If Allah delivers this miracle, do you promise to believe in Allah as the one true God? Will you accept that I am His apostle? Yes, they answered. The Prophet then prayed to Allah to grant them this request. It was a miracle. At first, the people heard the sound of rocks breaking apart. Then suddenly the rock fell apart and there it was, a beautiful she-camel. It was huge and it was pregnant too. When people saw the she-camel, they were amazed. They couldn't believe their eyes. Some people believed what they saw just instantly, but some, especially the rich and the powerful, thought that this was magic. The Prophet prostrated before the camel as it was Allah who brought the she-camel out of the rock with his glory. Few other people prostrated before the camel as well, as they now believed in the power of Allah. They had seen a great sign before their eyes. What the Prophet said was true. They said, Allah is the true God. But even now, the number of believers were very few. The others' mind was still corrupted and refused to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The she-camel became the symbol for Salih alayhi salam's message. It became the symbol of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After 3 days, the she-camel gave birth to a lovely young he-camel. The young camel always followed his mother. It stayed behind its mother calmly, and she looked after her son fondly. Very soon, the she-camel and her son became symbols for affection and mercy. When the people of the tribe saw it, they said, "This is Salih's she-camel." Then the Prophet said to his people, "O my people, worship Allah. There is no God but Him. This is a clear sign from your Lord. This she-camel is a sign for you. So leave her to graze on Allah's earth. Be careful not to hurt it. If you do that, then Allah will punish you." Days passed, and the she-camel grazed in the green pastures of Thamud. It ate the plants from the valley and drank water from the well. The she-camel was so huge that it drank lots and lots of water. And while it was drinking water from the well, no other animal or people could go near the well. The she-camel nursed the newborn fondly. She gave him her milk. When the people of Thamud saw the milk, their mouths watered. They hurried to the Prophet. "The camel's milk may be blessed," they said to him. "The baby camel is not going to have all of it. So please let us have some of the she-camel's milk," they requested. The Prophet thought for a while, and he said that they were allowed to have the milk of the camel by Allah's grace. However, he asked them to share the water with the camel. He told them that one day they could have the milk of the camel while she drank water from the well. And on the second day, he told them to leave the milk for her child. The people agreed to the Prophet's suggestion. The camel gave plenty of milk and it covered the needs of the entire Thamud. At first, the people were happy and content. But soon, the disbelievers started raising their voices. They hated the Prophet for turning people away from their idols. And their hatred now turned towards the blessed she-camel. The tribe of Thamud was divided into 2 parts now. First was the Muslims who believed in Allah and His Prophet. And the second were the disbelievers who thought the Prophet was lying. The disbelievers mocked at the Muslims. They mocked at their beliefs. "Do you believe that Salih is the Prophet of God?" "Yes, we believe in his message," they answered. "We believe Allah is the true God." But the disbelievers openly denied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were the rich and powerful men of Thamud. Some of the chiefs were against the Prophet too. They knew that the Prophet was a danger to their beliefs. One night, these evil men gathered together and hatched a plot to kill the poor she-camel. They took the help of their wives to convince 9 strong men. These 9 men agreed to kill the she-camel and her calf. Next day, they kept watching the camel closely, observing all its movements. As the she-camel came to drink water at the well, one of the men shot its leg with an arrow. The camel cried out loudly and it started to run. But the poor animal couldn't because of the arrow stuck in its leg. Then the others followed the camel and struck it with a sword on the other leg. The poor animal fell down crying. All of them used their swords to pierce the animal, and finally, it was dead. The killers were given a hero's welcome, cheered with songs and poetry. The disbelievers jumped up and down with joy, for they had succeeded in killing the gift of Allah. The Prophet was heartbroken to see the poor she-camel dead. "Enjoy life for 3 more days, for the God is sending his punishment," he shouted to the evil men who were dancing with joy. "Why 3 days?" they asked. "Let the punishment come as quickly as possible," they said arrogantly. The Prophet once again tried pleading with them. "My people, why do you follow the evil ways? Seek forgiveness from Allah so that you may receive His mercy." But they didn't listen to him and continued their celebrations. The evil men then plotted to kill the Prophet as well. But Allah saves the Prophet and his followers from their wicked plans. Heavy-hearted, they left the land of evildoers and moved to another place. And the day for the punishment arrived, as the Prophet had warned. The disbelievers stayed inside their homes made of rock, feeling safe. Suddenly, thunderbolts appeared out of nowhere, and there were severe earthquakes as well. The land was violently shaken, killing every man and animal living in Thamud. Neither their strong buildings nor their stone houses could protect them. All the disbelievers in Thamud were struck at the same time. Everything in Thamud was destroyed before people could even realize what was going on. Only the people who believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were saved because they had left the place. The arrogance and disbelief of the people could not save their lives, nor could their idols. Their large and extravagant buildings could offer no protection at all. God continues to send clear guidance, but disbelievers choose to ignore them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful and the most forgiving. However, we should not ignore God's warnings. God's punishments as the people of Thamud experience can be swift and severe.
MashaAllah, that was such a great story.
I'm glad you liked it.
Now the questions, Baba?
You are right. Are you ready?
Yes.
What sins did the people of Thamud commit?
The people of Thamud were idol worshippers. Isn't that right, Baba?
That's the correct answer. Now tell me, how did the people of Thamud challenge the Prophet to make them believe in Allah?
They asked the Prophet to perform a miracle.
And can you tell me what that miracle was?
They asked him to make a living camel out of the rock they worship. And they also wanted the camel to be pregnant.
Was the Prophet able to perform this miracle?
Yes. When the Prophet prayed to Allah, a huge she-camel emerged from the rocks. And she was pregnant too.
MashaAllah, that's very good. Now for the next question. What did the people of Thamud complain about? Let me give you 3 options to choose from. Option A. The camel was very naughty. Option B. The camel ate their sheep. Or option C. The camel drank all the water from the well.
It was option C.
That's correct again. The camel was so huge that it drank a lot of water. The next question. How did God punish the people of Thamud?
Allah sent huge earthquakes and thunderbolts to destroy the people of Thamud.
That's right again.
Thanks, Baba.
I'll come back tomorrow and tell you the story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam.
Thank you, Baba.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Today I am going to tell you the story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Are you ready?
Yes.
Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam plays a very important role in Islam. He fulfilled all the commandments and trials God gave him during his life. As a result of his unwavering faith, He was promised by God to be a leader of all the nations in the world. Now, let's start his story. Bismillah. The story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was born in the kingdom of Babylon a long time ago. He was blessed with wisdom even when he was a child, and this made him very special. The Prophet was born during a time when the people worshipped the sun, the moon, the stars, and they worshipped even the idols made out of stone. Ibrahim's father was a sculptor, and he used to make the idols with his own hands. His father never used to worship Allah at all. As a child, he used to sit and watch his father carving out these statues from stone. Ibrahim got curious about these funny-looking statues, and sometimes he used to play with them. But when he saw the same statue in temples, he got confused. He wondered why the people were prostrating before these stone idols. So he decided to ask his father about it. One day when his father was carving a statue of Mardukh, the Prophet asked his father, "Baba, why are people worshipping these toys that you are making yourself?" "They represent our gods," his father replied. "We should worship them to get favors from gods." "Why does it have such big ears, Baba?" the Prophet asked. "This statue is the god of gods, the Mardukh," he replied. The big ears represent his deep knowledge. Even though Ibrahim was only 7 years old at that time, he couldn't control his laughter. As time went by, Ibrahim grew with knowledge and wisdom. He knew that Allah was the only true God. His hatred for the idols increased as he grew older. Ibrahim had now turned 16 years old. Whenever he went to the temple along with his father, he was sad to see his people still praying to the idols. He saw that the people were offering sacrifices, seeking forgiveness of their sins. One day, Ibrahim left his home in search of Allah, the true God. He walked for a very long time, and finally he reached a mountain nearby. He climbed the mountain and sat near a cave nearby. He sat there for a very long time, and when he looked up, he saw a shining star. When he saw the beauty of the star, he wondered if this star could be Allah. But after a while, the star disappeared. He realized that the star was not Allah, as the true God will never set or disappear. After a while, the moon came up. The moon was very beautiful. So Ibrahim wondered if the moon could be Allah. He sat there gazing at the moon for a long time. But after a few hours, when the moon disappeared from the horizon, he realized that the moon was not Allah. Ibrahim was disappointed, but he continued to sit there on the top of the mountain watching the horizon. It was early morning by now, and that was when the sun came up. He looked at the bright sun and wondered again if this could be Allah, as it was bigger and very bright. But by evening, when the sun set in the horizon, he realized that it was not Allah, as the true God would never set. It was then Ibrahim realized that the true God can never be created. He understood that Allah is the creator of everything, even the sun, the moon, and the stars. He then prostrated on the ground, offering his thanks. He knew that Allah had just guided him to the truth. It was then he realized that Allah had chosen him to be a prophet. God had chosen him to guide his people. It was going to be a new life for Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. He then traveled back home to tell his father. about the great news. But when his father heard what he was saying, he got very, very angry. How dare you reject my gods? He asked angrily. Oh, my father, follow me. I will guide you on the right path. Allah will punish you if you don't repent. The Prophet pleaded with his father. I will ask people to stone you if you don't stop speaking like this. His father shouted at him. The Prophet was then asked to leave the house by his father. Ibrahim was sad for his father, for he had turned him away. He realized he could do nothing more. So he left home and walked away. He then went to the other people in his kingdom to guide them. He realized that it was his mission to call people back to Allah. Ibrahim went to the market and shouted to them, Allah is the one and only true God. There is no other God but Allah. There is nobody worthy of worship except Him. I will not bow down to the idols anymore. The people at the market got really angry when they heard him speak like this. Why do you worship these idols? He asked them. Don't you realize they have no power? The people threatened him to go away, so Ibrahim had to leave the market. But the Prophet thought of a plan to show them that the idols were not real gods. One day there was a big celebration near the river bank, and the Prophet knew that everyone in the city would be present there. The Prophet waited till he was sure that there was nobody left in the town. He then took an axe and went inside the temple. There were many idols kept inside the temple, and the Prophet started smashing the idols with his axe. One by one he smashed all the idols, except for one. That was the biggest idol inside the temple. He hung the axe around the neck of the statue and left the temple. The next day, when the people of the town came to the temple to worship, they were shocked to see the idol smashed into pieces. The pieces were lying around all over the place. They gathered together and discussed who could have done this terrible act. There was a young man at the market yesterday. One of them said, he was speaking against our gods. I know this person. His name was Ibrahim, said the other. The people found Prophet Ibrahim and brought him to the temple. Are you the one who has done these to our gods? They asked him. It was the statue here. Yes, that big one. The Prophet replied, why don't you ask him? He will tell you if he can speak. This angered the people further. You know very well that these idols do not speak. Then Prophet Ibrahim said, then why do you worship these idols who cannot speak, nor do they see or hear? Have you lost your minds? The people were ashamed and looked around, and they saw the shattered pieces of idols lying everywhere. Some of them realized that Ibrahim was saying the truth, but the others were still very angry with him. Punish him, they shouted. They wanted to take revenge for shattering the idols. They tied him in chains and gathered around to discuss how they were going to punish the Prophet. Let's burn him in fire, one of them said. Let's build the biggest fire anyone has ever seen and throw him into it. Everyone thought it was a great idea. The people of Babylon then started building a fire so large that even the birds could not fly above it. It was so hot that the people couldn't go near it.
Mashallah, that was such a great story.
That's all for today. I'll tell the rest of the story tomorrow.
Okay, Baba.
Shall I ask you a few questions from the story?
Yes.
Where was Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam born?
Babylon. He was born in Babylon.
MashaAllah, that's the right answer. Now tell me, what did the Prophet's father do? I'll give you some options. Option A, carpenter. Option B, sculptor. Option C, woodcutter.
This one was so easy. It was option B. He was a sculptor.
Right again. Now for the next question. Tell me, why was the Prophet asked to leave from the house?
The Prophet refused to worship the idols, and this made his father very angry. That's why his father asked him to leave the house. Isn't that right, Baba?
That's correct, my son. Why were the people of Babylon angry at the Prophet?
The Prophet wanted to teach the people of Babylon a lesson, so he smashed all the idols they worshipped.
MashaAllah, that's the right answer. That's all for today. I'll tell you the remaining story tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. I was waiting for you, Baba.
You look so excited.
Yes, Baba, I really wanted to know what happened to the Prophet. Did the people throw him in fire? What happened to him?
All right, I will tell you the rest of the story now. Listen carefully. Bismillah. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and the great fire. When people realized that it was Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam who had destroyed the idols, they were really angry. They decided to burn him in the biggest fire anyone had seen before. First, they dug a deep hole to put the firewood. They gathered all the wood they could find and started building a fire. The people kept adding the woods for days and days, and the fire grew stronger and stronger. It is said that the fire grew so strong that no one could go near it because of the heat. It was so tall that not even the birds could fly above it. Many people heard about this huge fire in Babylon and traveled to the city to witness this phenomenon. Then one day the people tied the hands and feet of Ibrahim alayhi salam and placed him on a catapult so that he could be thrown into the fire. It was then an angel from heaven appeared before the Prophet and asked him if he wanted any wish to be granted. The Prophet could have easily asked the angel to save him from the fire, but he did not. I only wish for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with me, he said. What followed was a miracle. When the Prophet landed in the fire suddenly got cold. It only burned the ropes that tied the Prophet. And no harm came to the Prophet. The Prophet sat there amidst the fire, as if he was sitting in a garden. He sat there and sang praises of Allah. The people couldn't see what was happening, so they waited for the fire to finish burning. And finally, when the fire went out, the Prophet walked out of the fire with not a single burn in his body. The people were shocked to see this. This was a miracle. The God of Ibrahim must be the true God, some of them said. But most of them were still angry with the Prophet for destroying the idols. They decided to take the Prophet for a trial to the king's palace. The soldiers came and arrested the Prophet and took him to the palace of King Nimrod. He was taken to the palace with his hands chained. Nimrod had heard that the Prophet had shattered the idols he worshipped. "Tell me why you smashed the idols we worship," he asked the Prophet. "They were false idols. They were not God," replied the Prophet. "Then who is the true God?" Nimrod asked. The Prophet politely replied, "There is only one true God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives life and death." The king got angry when he heard the Prophet. He stood up angrily and said,
I can give life and death too. Wait and I'll show you. He asked his soldiers to bring 2 of his slaves to the courtroom. He asked the slaves to kill the first one. The guard, on hearing the order, struck the sword and killed one of the slave. You see, I can give death, said Nimrod proudly. Now kill the other one too, said Nimrod to the guard. But before the guard could strike the slave with his sword, he asked him to stop. He then shouted to the guard, "Don't kill him! Let him live!" He then turned to the Prophet and said, "I can give life too. You just saw that." The Prophet replied, "Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the sun rise from the east. Can you make the sun rise from the west? Can you do that?" Nimrod was speechless. He was really angry with the Prophet for confronting him. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam called the people to worship Allah for a long time. There were nobody willing to listen in Babylon except for one man and a woman. The woman's name was Sarah, and later she became his wife. The man's name was Lut, who would later become a prophet as well. After years of calling people to Allah, the Prophet realized that nobody else was going to listen to his words. So he decided to migrate to another country. He wanted to spread the message of Allah in another nation. The Prophet then asked his father to join him, but he refused. The Prophet, the woman, and Lut alayhi salam then started their long journey. They traveled through Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, calling out the people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They helped the poor they could find on the way. And they did many good deeds that made people happy. In the meantime, the Prophet Lut alayhi salam migrated to the Dead Sea and settled down there. And after a few months, the Prophet married Sarah. She was a good believer, and they wanted to have children who would spread the message of Allah after their time. The Prophet and his wife traveled again for many days through the desert. One day, they happened to enter the territory of an evil king. The evil king came to know about the beautiful wife of the Prophet, and he wanted to take her. So he sent one of his soldiers to bring the Prophet to him. The soldier brought the Prophet before the king. "Who is the lady accompanying you?" asked the evil king. The Prophet replied that she was his sister. The evil king then asked the Prophet to bring Sarah to his court. He said that he wanted to meet this beautiful woman that everyone in his kingdom was talking about. The Prophet went to his wife and said, "The king wants to meet you. Do not ever tell him that you are my wife, because I have told him that you are my sister." The Prophet told his wife. When Sarah went to the king's palace, the king was struck by her beauty, and he tried to take hold of her with his hands. But the moment his hand got near Sarah, it became stiff and he could not move it. The king was scared and he requested Sarah, "Please pray to Allah for me and I will never harm you." When Sarah prayed to Allah, his hands got cured miraculously. But the moment he realized that his hands were cured, the foolish king tried to take hold of Sarah again. And for the second time, his hands got stiff. The king couldn't move his hands at all. "Please pray to Allah for me. I shall never harm you again," said the king. Sarah prayed to Allah again and his hands got cured for the second time. This time the king realized that Sarah was no ordinary woman. So he gave Sarah a gift. He gave her one of his Egyptian maidservant, and her name was Hajar. When Sarah returned home, the Prophet asked her what happened. "Allah taught that evil king a lesson, and he gave me and he gave me a maid. Hajar, replied Sarah. Years passed and the Prophet grew old. His hair grayed. But he continued to call people back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sarah too had grown old, and she realized that she would no longer be able to give birth to a child. So she asked the Prophet to marry their servant Hajar. She then prayed to Allah to bless them